Okay, I'm going to show you how to get to the simulation and how to use the simulation and record your data. In the WAG for Wednesday, it says simulation link. You open that. The purple dots are fruit trees and the black dots are termites. The orangutans eat both fruit trees and termites. Each fruit that it eats gives it 5.2 energy points. Each termite is 0.54 or 45 energy points because they're smaller. The trees will regrow fruit. The time frame that the simulation will run for is 5 years. These are each of the orangutans. You will pick one to follow. It starts with 25 fruit trees, 25% fruit trees, and we want to keep that percent. So you hit run experiment. Right now it's going on fast, so it's kind of hard to follow an orangutan. You can put it on medium. Slow is really slow, but it's going to go all the way through 5 years. So as you see, some of them are moving in smaller areas and some of them are moving quite a lot. That's something to think about because every time they move from one tree area to another tree area, they're losing energy points. If they're staying in the same area, then they're not using as much energy to find food, so they should have more energy points at the end of 5 years. We are getting close to the end. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. When it's fast, you can really see how some of them are moving all over. Like Amy just went from here all the way down there and going back up. Okay, now it is finished. And you can click Show Orangutan Energy. So I was just talking about Amy and how Amy was moving a lot. So I'm going to find Amy here just as an example. Amy's energy was 740. The minimum was 547. The maximum was 930. And the average was 694. You're going to record the energy level of the orangutan you chose to follow, the minimum, the max, and the average. So right here on your paper, you'll put the name of the one you're following. You could make a prediction first. Do you think they'll do same, better, or worse than other orangutans, and why? Right here is where you'll put their number. This one had a really low range. So for this one, Ken's number was energy level was 111. The minimum was 82. The maximum was 121. And then we wrote A for average, and the average here was 110. So then we had a conversation about how we felt about this orangutan because its number was 111, which is close to the average. The range was really small. So at first we thought maybe it was very successful. But we decided it was too close to the average. So we decided it was moderately successful. It was around average. Once you circle your claim, then you're going to write your evidence. Remember, evidence needs at least 2 numbers. So you need your orangutan's energy level, and then you need minimum, maximum, average, or 2 of the numbers. Depends. We wrote it this way, and this is how you can structure yours. My orangutan, comma, Ken, comma, had 111 energy level, which was, and then here's where you could change it to what you needed. We said close to the average of 110, but you could compare that to the minimum or the maximum if that works better for your orangutan. And then for reason, this is why you want to make sure you can follow the orangutans around and see what they're doing. Because how they're moving around, if they're clumped with other orangutans, or if they're in an area where there aren't very many fruit trees, all of that will impact your reasoning because that's going to impact why you got the number you got. So here's our reasoning for this one. The reason Ken was moderately successful, went back to these words, at finding food was he moved around a lot to find fruit trees using up energy. So he wasn't, maximum because he had to move around some, but he also wasn't minimum. He didn't have to move. I guess we could have said he moved around some instead of a lot, but he was using up energy. Once we do that, then on the next page, cross off the top. We're not doing that part, but change it to 15%. So now in the simulation, you right here will change this down to 15. Whoops. And then hit run again. And then once it runs, again, you're going to record the numbers for your orangutan. I'll look at Amy again because we looked at Amy for the last one, but we're going to talk about Ken on the paper. Let's see if I can see Amy here. Amy is moving down again, but she's now looking for, at least she's in her path. There's lots of fruit trees in her path. That's a good thing. Okay, now it is finished. Again, you will probably see it like this, and you just click the plus. So Amy has 284 energy level. The minimum was 37, the maximum 359, average 171. So we go back to our paper. We write down your orangutan's number. This is Ken's. You put the minimum, the maximum, and the average. So let's take a look at this one. Whoops. This time, there were no negative numbers. If you have a negative number, that means your orangutan died, that it didn't survive. So, because it went less than 0. When this student ran their experiment, they had negative 173. So they had some die. So when we look at this one, we are no longer talking specifically about one orangutan, but we're comparing the population as a whole. On the first time, the percent of fruit trees was 25. So now you're looking at minimum, maximum, and average for the orangutan population at 25% compared to the minimum, maximum, and average for the orangutan population at 15%. So now instead of your specific orangutan, we're looking at the population. So we decided they were moderately successful. The orangutan population had a maximum energy level of 432 and a minimum level of 173. This is not the best evidence because we forgot to compare to this one. So what we should have for proper evidence here is maybe even just pick the maximum. So except this one is weird because do you see how for this one the number was really low? So comparing this one to this one is kind of challenging. If we use the average, it might, or the minimum. Let's focus on minimum. I think that would be better. So the minimum at 25% fruit trees was 82. And the minimum at 15% fruit trees was 173. I think that shows the most difference, and so we'll focus on that. Now that makes it look pretty unsuccessful. However, some of them survived because we had a high maximum. Does that make sense? So the reason the population was moderately successful was because some orangutans found lots of fruit trees and had high energy, but others did not, and they died. So that is our reasoning here. Again, our evidence needed to be better. We should have focused on just minimum at 15% and minimum at 25%. And then the next one, you're going to change to 35%. So it's going to be an increase. Record your numbers. And again, you're comparing the population as a whole to either 15% or 25%. Pick one of those two to compare it to. And you got this.